I woke up one Tuesday morning and watched my husband Robert struggle for nearly 15 minutes just to button his shirt. His hands were shaking so badly that the simple task he had done thousands of times before had become an impossible challenge. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said something that broke my heart. "I feel like my body is betraying me." That was 3 years ago, shortly after his Parkinson's diagnosis, and at that time we thought tremors were just something we would have to learn to live with. We believed that medication was the only answer, and that the rest was simply about accepting this new reality. But what I discovered in the months that followed changed everything, and I mean everything, about how we approached his symptoms. The turning point came during a routine visit to his neurologist. Robert mentioned that his tremors seemed worse on some days than others, and the doctor asked us something we had never really thought about before. "Have you been paying attention to what he eats?" At first, I thought it was a strange question. What could food possibly have to do with the shaking in his hands? But that single question sent me down a research path that would fundamentally change our understanding of Parkinson's and how diet plays a much bigger role than most people realize. I started keeping a detailed journal of everything Robert ate and how his symptoms changed throughout the day. What I found was shocking. There was one food, something we had been eating almost every single day, that was making his tremors significantly worse, and we had no idea. Let me explain what I discovered and why this matters so much. When you have Parkinson's disease, your brain is already struggling to produce enough dopamine, which is the chemical messenger that helps control movement. Think of dopamine like the oil in a car engine. Without enough of it, everything starts to grind and shake. Now, most people know that Parkinson's medications work by either replacing dopamine or helping your brain use what little it has more effectively. But here is what most people do not know. Certain foods can actually interfere with how your body absorbs and uses these medications, and some foods can even make your brain produce less dopamine on its own. It is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can keep adding water, but if something is draining it out just as fast, you will never get ahead. The food I am talking about is protein, specifically the timing and amount of protein you consume in relation to your Parkinson's medication. Before you panic, let me be clear. Protein is not the enemy. Your body absolutely needs protein to function, to build and repair tissues, to make enzymes and hormones, and to support your immune system. The problem is not protein itself, but how it interacts with levodopa, which is the most common and effective medication for Parkinson's symptoms. Here is what happens. Levodopa needs to get from your stomach into your bloodstream and then cross something called the blood-brain barrier to actually work. To do this, it uses the same transportation system that carries amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. When you eat a high-protein meal around the same time you take your medication, all those amino acids from the protein are competing with the levodopa for the same ride into your brain. It is like trying to get on a crowded subway during rush hour. Sure, you might eventually get on, but it is going to take a lot longer, and you might not get a seat at all. What I noticed in Robert's case was dramatic. On days when he had eggs and bacon for breakfast, right around the time he took his morning medication, his tremors were noticeably worse throughout the morning. On days when he had oatmeal with berries instead, his medication seemed to work much better, and his tremors were significantly reduced. I started tracking this pattern obsessively, writing down exact times, exact foods, and exact symptom levels on a scale of 1 to 10. After 2 weeks, the pattern was undeniable. High-protein breakfasts were directly correlated with worse tremor control in the morning hours. When I brought this information back to his neurologist, she confirmed what I had discovered through my tracking. She explained that many of her Parkinson's patients do not realize that the timing of protein intake can make or break their symptom control for the entire day. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. Research from the University of Michigan and other institutions has shown that people with Parkinson's who redistribute their protein intake throughout the day, eating most of their protein in the evening rather than spreading it evenly across all meals, often experience significant improvements in their motor symptoms during waking hours. One study found that this approach improved motor function by an average of 20 to 30% during the day when medication is most needed. Think about what that means in practical terms. That is the difference between being able to button your shirt independently or needing help. That is the difference between being able to write a check or having your signature look like a child's scribble. That is the difference between walking confidently or shuffling with instability. Let me share with you exactly what we changed and how we implemented this knowledge. Instead of the traditional American breakfast of eggs, toast, and maybe some sausage or bacon, Robert started having what we call his green smoothie. I blend together spinach, a banana, blueberries, a tablespoon of almond butter for healthy fats, and some orange juice. The almond butter does have some protein, but it is minimal, maybe 4 or 5 grams, and it is enough to keep him from feeling hungry without significantly interfering with his medication absorption. He takes his first dose of levodopa about 30 minutes before this smoothie, and then we wait another 30 minutes before he eats anything else. This timing is crucial. His neurologist explained that levodopa is absorbed most effectively on an empty stomach, and you want to give it at least a 30-minute head start before introducing any competing amino acids. For lunch, we follow a similar pattern. Robert takes his midday medication about 30 to 40 minutes before eating. His lunch is typically centered around vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats, with very little protein. A typical lunch might be a large salad with lots of colorful vegetables, some avocado for healthy fats, a sweet potato, and a light vinaigrette dressing. Sometimes he has a vegetable soup with quinoa and plenty of olive oil. The key is keeping the protein content under 10 grams for this meal. He tells me that on this eating schedule, his medication works like clockwork. He can feel it kick in about 45 minutes after taking it, and the effect lasts much longer than it used to. His tremors during the day are now maybe a 2 or 3 on our scale of 10, compared to the 6 or 7 they used to be when he was eating protein at every meal. Then comes dinner, and this is where we allow protein back into his diet in more substantial amounts. By this time, Robert has taken his last medication dose of the day, usually around 6 in the evening, and we eat dinner about 2 hours later, around 8 o'clock. This gives his final dose time to be fully absorbed before we introduce a significant amount of protein. Dinner might include grilled chicken breast, wild-caught salmon, grass-fed beef, or plant-based proteins like lentils or chickpeas. We pair this with plenty of vegetables, and maybe some brown rice or another whole grain. This approach ensures he is getting all the protein his body needs for muscle maintenance and overall health, but it is timed in a way that does not interfere with his medication effectiveness during the daytime hours when he needs the best possible motor control. Before we continue, I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any patterns between what you eat and how your symptoms behave throughout the day? Do your tremors seem better or worse at certain times, and have you ever connected it to your meals? Share your experience in the comments below, because your story could help other people going through the same situation. Sometimes we notice patterns but think we are imagining them, and hearing that others have similar experiences can be incredibly validating and helpful. Let me talk about some other foods that we discovered were affecting Robert's symptoms, because it is not just about protein timing. Caffeine is another big one. And this was hard for Robert because he was a lifelong coffee drinker. He would have 3 or 4 cups of coffee throughout the day, and he thought it was helping him stay alert and energized. What we did not realize is that caffeine can actually increase tremors in people with Parkinson's disease. Caffeine stimulates your nervous system, which can amplify the tremors that are already being caused by dopamine deficiency. When Robert cut his coffee intake down to just 1 small cup in the morning and switched to green tea or herbal tea for the rest of the day, he noticed a reduction in the intensity of his tremors, especially in the afternoon and evening when they used to be at their worst. Sugar is another culprit that we had to address. Robert had always had a sweet tooth, and after his diagnosis, I think he found comfort in treats and desserts. But what happens when you eat a lot of refined sugar is that your blood glucose levels spike quickly and then crash just as fast. These blood sugar fluctuations can worsen tremors and also contribute to the fatigue that many people with Parkinson's experience. We did not eliminate sugar completely, because I think that kind of restriction is unrealistic and can actually backfire, but we made conscious choices to reduce it significantly. Instead of ice cream after dinner every night, Robert might have it once or twice a week. Instead of cookies and candy throughout the day, he snacks on fresh fruit, nuts, or vegetable sticks with hummus. The goal was not perfection, but rather a significant reduction in the dramatic blood sugar swings that were making his symptoms worse. Processed foods also had to go, or at least be dramatically reduced. I am talking about things like frozen dinners, packaged snacks, fast food, and anything with a long list of ingredients you cannot pronounce. These foods are often loaded with preservatives, artificial colors, excessive sodium, and unhealthy fats, all of which can contribute to inflammation in the body. There is growing research showing that inflammation plays a role in the progression of Parkinson's disease. When your body is in a constant state of inflammation, it is like trying to run a race with weights tied to your ankles. Everything becomes harder, including your brain's ability to produce and use dopamine effectively. We started cooking almost everything from scratch, which I know sounds overwhelming, but it became easier once we got into a rhythm. I would batch cook on Sundays, making large portions of soups, stews, and casseroles that we could eat throughout the week. This way, we always had healthy options available, and Robert was never tempted to reach for something processed just because it was convenient. Alcohol was another thing we had to reconsider. Robert enjoyed having a beer or a glass of wine with dinner most nights, and while moderate alcohol consumption is not necessarily harmful for everyone with Parkinson's, we noticed that it seemed to affect his balance and coordination more than it used to. Alcohol can interact with Parkinson's medications and can also affect your brain's dopamine system. After some experimentation, Robert decided to limit alcohol to special occasions only, maybe once every week or two, and even then, just one drink. He says he does not really miss it, and he appreciates the clearer head and better sleep he gets without it. Let me explain the science behind why these dietary changes work so well. Your gut and your brain are connected through something called the gut-brain axis. This is a complex communication network that links your digestive system with your central nervous system. About 90% of your body's serotonin, another important neurotransmitter, is actually produced in your gut, not your brain. Your gut is also home to trillions of bacteria, collectively called your microbiome, and these bacteria play a crucial role in your overall health, including your neurological health. When you eat processed foods, excessive sugar, and low-quality proteins, you are feeding the bad bacteria in your gut and creating an environment of inflammation and dysfunction. But when you eat whole foods, plenty of vegetables, healthy fats, and quality proteins timed appropriately, you are feeding the good bacteria and creating an environment that supports optimal brain function. There is also fascinating research about something called oxidative stress and how it relates to Parkinson's disease. Oxidative stress happens when there are too many free radicals in your body and not enough antioxidants to neutralize them. Free radicals are unstable molecules that can damage your cells, including the dopamine-producing cells in your brain. Foods that are high in antioxidants can help combat this oxidative stress and potentially slow the progression of Parkinson's symptoms. This is why we made sure Robert's diet was loaded with colorful fruits and vegetables. Blueberries, strawberries, spinach, kale, broccoli, bell peppers, and beets are all incredibly high in antioxidants. We also added in turmeric, which contains a compound called curcumin that has powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. I started adding a teaspoon of turmeric to his smoothies and incorporating it into our cooking whenever possible. Omega-3 fatty acids are another crucial component that we added to Robert's diet. These healthy fats, found in fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel, as well as in walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds, are essential for brain health. They help reduce inflammation and support the structure and function of brain cells. Robert was never a big fish eater, so this was a challenge at first. We started slowly, introducing salmon once a week, and I learned different ways to prepare it so it did not feel repetitive. I would bake it with lemon and herbs, make salmon cakes with sweet potato, or add it to salads. On days when he did not eat fish, I made sure he had a serving of walnuts or a tablespoon of ground flaxseed added to his smoothie. The results of these dietary changes have been nothing short of remarkable. Within about 6 weeks of implementing the protein redistribution strategy and cleaning up his overall diet, Robert's tremors during the day improved by what I would estimate to be around 40%. His handwriting, which had become almost illegible, is now mostly readable again. He can button his shirts without assistance most mornings. He can use a fork and knife without food flying off his plate. These might sound like small things to someone who does not have Parkinson's, but to us, they represent enormous victories in maintaining independence and quality of life. His energy levels also improved significantly. Before these changes, he would often need a nap in the afternoon because he felt so exhausted. Now he rarely naps and has enough energy to take walks with me in the evening, something we both treasure. I want to be completely honest with you about the challenges we faced in making these changes. The first 2 weeks were really hard. Robert was hungry a lot because he was used to eating more protein throughout the day, and his body needed time to adjust to this new eating pattern. We solved this by making sure his meals were large and filling, even if they were lower in protein. Adding healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, nuts, and seeds helped keep him satisfied between meals. He also went through a period of mourning his old eating habits. Food is emotional, and giving up some of his favorite foods felt like another loss on top of everything else Parkinson's had already taken from him. We worked through this together, finding new favorite foods and recipes that fit within his new dietary framework. I experimented in the kitchen, trying new cuisines and cooking methods to keep things interesting. Another challenge was social situations. When we would go to dinner at a friend's house or out to a restaurant, it was not always easy to stick to the protein timing strategy. We learned to be proactive and communicate our needs. If we were invited to dinner, I would let the host know about Robert's dietary needs ahead of time, and most people were incredibly understanding and accommodating. At restaurants, Robert learned to ask questions about how dishes were prepared and to request modifications when necessary. It took some getting used to, but it became second nature after a while. The key was not letting perfect be the enemy of good. If we had a special occasion where the timing did not work out perfectly, we did not beat ourselves up about it. We just got back on track with the next meal. The cost of eating this way is something I want to address because I know it is a real concern for many families. Yes, buying fresh vegetables, quality proteins, and organic options when possible does cost more than buying processed foods and cheap proteins. But we found ways to make it work within our budget. We started shopping at farmers' markets where produce is often less expensive and fresher than at grocery stores. We bought certain items in bulk, like oats, quinoa, rice, and frozen vegetables, which are just as nutritious as fresh and often more affordable. We prioritized where to spend our money, focusing on buying organic for the dirty dozen fruits and vegetables that tend to have the most pesticide residue, and buying conventional for items that are naturally lower in pesticides. We also reduced our spending in other areas. We stopped buying coffee at cafes, we cut back on eating out at restaurants, and we eliminated our spending on processed snacks and convenience foods. When we added it all up, we were actually spending about the same amount on groceries as we had before, just allocating it differently. Let me give you a practical example of what Robert's daily eating schedule looks like now, so you can see how this works in real life. He wakes up around 7 in the morning and takes his first dose of levodopa on an empty stomach with just water. At 7:30, he has his green smoothie that I mentioned earlier, made with leafy greens, fruit, a small amount of nut butter, and some juice or almond milk. Around 10 o'clock, he has a snack if he is hungry, usually an apple with a small handful of almonds or some carrot sticks with hummus. At noon, he takes his second dose of medication, again on an empty stomach with just water. Around 12:30 or 1 o'clock, he has lunch, which might be a big salad with lots of vegetables, avocado, olive oil dressing, and maybe some quinoa or sweet potato. At 3:30, he has another snack, perhaps some berries with a few walnuts or a small smoothie. At 6 o'clock, he takes his third and final dose of medication for the day. We have dinner around 8, and this is when he has his main protein serving, along with plenty of vegetables and a whole grain. If he is hungry before bed, he might have a small snack like a piece of fruit or some herbal tea. This schedule might seem rigid, but it has actually given Robert's day more structure and predictability, which he finds comforting. He knows when his medication will be most effective, and he can plan activities around those times. If he has an important appointment or wants to work on a hobby that requires good hand control, he schedules it for late morning or early afternoon when his medication is working at its peak and his symptoms are at their best. This level of control over his symptoms has been empowering for him. So much of Parkinson's feels like it is happening to you, like you are just along for the ride with no say in the matter. But discovering that he can influence his symptoms through dietary choices has given him back a sense of agency and control over his own body. I also want to mention some specific supplements that Robert's neurologist recommended and that have become part of his daily routine. Coenzyme Q10, also called CoQ10, is an antioxidant that your body produces naturally, but levels decline as you age and may be even lower in people with Parkinson's. Some research suggests that CoQ10 supplementation may help slow the progression of Parkinson's symptoms. Robert takes 200 milligrams twice a day with meals. Vitamin D is another important one. Many people with Parkinson's are deficient in vitamin D, and low levels have been associated with worse motor symptoms and faster disease progression. Robert takes 2,000 international units of vitamin D3 daily, and we also make sure he gets some sunlight exposure when weather permits. Vitamin B12 is crucial for nerve health and energy production. Some Parkinson's medications can interfere with B12 absorption, so supplementation can be helpful. Robert takes a B12 supplement and also eats foods naturally high in B12 like fish and eggs during his evening meal. Magnesium is another supplement that has made a difference for Robert. Magnesium plays a role in muscle function, and can help with the muscle cramps and rigidity that often come with Parkinson's. It also supports better sleep, which is crucial because sleep problems are very common in Parkinson's and can make all symptoms worse. Robert takes 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate before bed. This form of magnesium is well absorbed and less likely to cause digestive upset than some other forms. Probiotics have also become part of his supplement routine to support his gut health and that gut-brain connection I mentioned earlier. He takes a high-quality probiotic with multiple strains of beneficial bacteria every morning. All of these supplements combined probably cost around $60 to $70 per month, which I know is not insignificant, but when we consider the improvement in his quality of life and potentially slowing disease progression, we feel it is money well spent. It is important to understand that these dietary changes are not a cure for Parkinson's disease. I want to be very clear about that because I never want to give false hope. Robert still has Parkinson's. He still takes his medications every day. He still has tremors, although they are much better controlled now. He still has good days and bad days. But what these dietary changes have done is give him more good days and make the bad days more manageable. They have allowed his medications to work more effectively, reducing his symptoms and improving his function during the hours when he is most active and wants to be most independent. They have given him a sense of control and active participation in his own care, which has been incredibly important for his mental and emotional well-being. I have also noticed improvements in symptoms that I did not expect to be affected by diet. Robert's constipation, which is a very common and uncomfortable non-motor symptom of Parkinson's, has improved significantly since we increased his intake of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, and made sure he is drinking plenty of water throughout the day. The fiber from all these plant foods keeps things moving in his digestive system. His sleep quality has also improved. He falls asleep more easily, stays asleep longer, and wakes up feeling more refreshed. I think this is partly due to the stable blood sugar levels from avoiding sugar and processed foods, partly due to the magnesium supplementation, and partly due to not having caffeine late in the day. Better sleep has a cascading positive effect on everything else. When you sleep well, your brain functions better, your mood is better, your energy is better, and even your motor symptoms are often better. Another unexpected benefit has been the improvement in Robert's mood and mental clarity. Depression and anxiety are common in Parkinson's, and Robert had been struggling with both. While he is still on an antidepressant medication that his doctor prescribed, he says he feels more optimistic and less anxious since making these dietary changes. There is research showing that what you eat can significantly affect your mental health, and I think we are seeing that play out in Robert's experience. The omega-3 fats, the antioxidants, the stable blood sugar, the reduced inflammation, all of these things support not just physical brain health but mental and emotional health as well. Let me share a story that really drives home the impact of these changes. About 6 months after we started this new way of eating, our daughter was getting married. Robert was incredibly anxious about the wedding because he was supposed to walk her down the aisle, and he was terrified that his tremors would be so bad that he would not be able to do it, or that he would ruin the photos and the video. We worked with his neurologist to optimize his medication timing for that day. He took his morning dose extra early, and we made sure he had only a very light breakfast with no protein. We timed everything so that his medication would be at peak effectiveness right when he needed to walk down the aisle. And you know what? He did it. He walked our daughter down that aisle with steady hands and a confident stride. Yes, there was a slight tremor if you looked closely, but it was manageable. He was not shaking noticeably. He held his daughter's arm firmly. He smiled for the photos. He gave a short toast at the reception without his voice shaking too badly. It was a moment of triumph that I will never forget, and it would not have been possible without all the work we had put into managing his symptoms through diet and medication timing. If you are watching this video, and you or someone you love has Parkinson's disease, I want you to know that you have more power than you might think. You are not helpless. You are not just at the mercy of this disease. Yes, Parkinson's is progressive, and yes, it will present challenges that you cannot fully control. But there are things you can do, concrete actions you can take to influence your symptoms and maintain your quality of life for as long as possible. Paying attention to when and what you eat is one of the most powerful tools you have, and it is something you can start implementing today. You do not need special equipment. You do not need a prescription. You just need information, commitment, and probably some trial and error to figure out what works best for your unique situation. Start by keeping a food and symptom journal for at least 2 weeks. Write down everything you eat, when you eat it, when you take your medications, and how your symptoms are throughout the day. Look for patterns. Do your tremors get worse after certain foods or at certain times? Do you have better days when you eat certain ways? Share this information with your neurologist or movement disorder specialist. Many doctors are not proactive about discussing diet with their Parkinson's patients, but if you bring them data and ask specific questions, most will be supportive and can offer guidance specific to your situation and your medications. Consider working with a registered dietitian who has experience with Parkinson's disease. They can help you create a meal plan that meets your nutritional needs while optimizing your medication effectiveness. They can also help you navigate challenges like unintended weight loss, which is common in Parkinson's, or difficulty swallowing, which can develop as the disease progresses. Insurance may cover some sessions with a dietitian, especially if your doctor writes a prescription for medical nutrition therapy. If cost is an issue, there are also many reputable online resources and books specifically about nutrition for Parkinson's disease that can give you guidance. Be patient with yourself as you make these changes. It took us several months to fully transition to this new way of eating, and there were definitely bumps along the way. There were days when Robert was frustrated and wanted to just eat whatever he wanted without thinking about it. There were times when I was exhausted from all the meal planning and cooking and just wanted to order pizza. And sometimes we did, and that was okay. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is progress, not perfection. Every healthy choice you make is a step in the right direction, even if you also make some less healthy choices along the way. Connect with other people who are dealing with Parkinson's, either in person through support groups or online through forums and social media communities. Sharing experiences, tips, and recipes with others who understand what you are going through can be incredibly valuable and encouraging. We found an online community of people with Parkinson's who are focused on lifestyle interventions like diet and exercise, and it has been wonderful to have that support and to learn from others' experiences. If this video brought valuable information to you, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications of new content. We share practical, evidence-based strategies every week to help you live better with Parkinson's. Our community is made up of people who, just like you, are seeking knowledge and support on this journey. In future videos, I will be covering other important topics, like specific exercises that can reduce tremors and rigidity, strategies for better sleep, how to manage the emotional challenges of Parkinson's, and much more. Your engagement and your stories in the comments help shape what content I create, so please share your experiences and let me know what topics you would like me to cover next. Living with Parkinson's is undeniably hard. There will be difficult days and frustrating moments and times when you feel like giving up, but there will also be victories, both big and small, and moments of joy and connection that are all the more precious because you have fought for them. Robert and I have learned to celebrate those moments, to find gratitude in what he can still do rather than dwelling on what has been lost. The dietary changes we made are just one piece of a much larger puzzle that includes medication, exercise, stress management, social connection, and maintaining purpose and meaning in life. But it is an important piece, one that you have control over, and one that can make a real, measurable difference in your daily symptoms and quality of life. You are stronger than you know, and you are not alone in this fight. Keep learning, keep trying, keep hoping, and most importantly, keep living your life as fully as you possibly can.